What's up, everybody? I'm on a pause screen. Welcome back. This is Chris. This is my Bloodborne playthrough. I've noticed lately as you go through the game, that doll seems to be sleeping more and more. And then she says she dozes off. But why does a doll need to sleep? Why? Who are you? Who are you? Man, I don't know if that question's ever gonna be answered right now. Maybe DLC or something. But we made it halfway, I guess you could say, probably halfway through the Nightmare of Mensis, and we're gonna try to make our way a little bit further. I believe this video we're gonna start off with a boss fight against Micolash, the host of the nightmare, and then we're gonna go into I guess it's a secret area. I didn't know it was a secret. I thought it might have been a path maybe towards the end, but I should have known better because it was obviously off to the side and hidden. So I knew it was a hidden area of the Nightmare of Mensis. That's kind of hidden. It's also got probably one of the toughest enemies in the game that I've faced so far, and they are a bitch. And if you know who I'm talking about, it's the ladies with the big brain heads. The ones in the Nightmare Frontier are nowhere near as hard as the ones I'm about to fight. The ones I'm about to fight are ridiculous. They're some of the toughest enemies, and it's because they can hit you with frenzy, and then on top of that they're able to grab you, and that's just a deadly combo. Because if they grab you, you're dead. Like, there's no way, because they already hit you with frenzy. Unless you have some crazy frenzy resistance where you're not gonna take a frenzy hit, you're gonna get annihilated, and and it's a tough little area. So I was thinking about when I went through there about how tough, or what was gonna be back there. I was like, okay, so I'm going this way. What's technically going to be over here? Why is it going to be tough? Why is there all these hard enemies leading this way? So I was hoping to find something really great. You find little things here and there, and there is something, I guess, that you can say is great for the level itself, so you can run around more. But I don't know if I would say, you know, it was anything mind-blowing or mind-shattering at that. So we're going to be doing that, and then that's pretty much going to be the end of this episode. I think this episode is not as long as my other ones. I think it's around 40 minutes or so. So I'm sorry if that's a little shorter than y'all want, but that's kind of just where I want to end it, because I think the next part is going to lead up to the end of the area, and basically I believe it will be the end of the game, but then I'll still be able to go search for some secret areas that I haven't visited yet, or I should say areas that I haven't looked at, including I haven't looked at it yet on my character, actually, on any of the episodes, but I have that Canehurst invitation that I haven't checked out yet, but I wanted to wait to use it when I went to go to Canehurst. So there's that, and then I still got to use the Cathedral Upper Ward key, so I still have to use that. We visited Nightmare Frontier, so that's done. And I think those are really the only two optional areas. I'm going to knock them out first before I actually end the game. Each one of those will probably be an episode, and then I guess the last episode, probably from here, there'll probably be 4 more episodes, unless I play like really poorly. Even if I play poorly, you're still gonna get all this stuff cut out. So yeah, it's probably still gonna be 4 more episodes from here. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how this game ends and where it's actually leading us. There's a lot of stuff coming up that is kind of crazy, especially in the Micolash fight. He is not a hard fight. I'd actually die against him, which is pathetic on my part, but he is not a very hard fight. He does, however, he has arcane abilities, but he doesn't use them if you stay close to him. And well, that's kind of true and kind of not true, because if you watch my fight, when I fight him, he kind of does that and he kind of doesn't. Wow, look at that, I got stuck between the stairs. We're gonna talk about the fight a little bit, and then we're gonna talk about what he's talking about during the fight, because he says some lines during the fight that have some lore potential. I'm looking at these cages because I just think this place is filled with them. You use them as elevators. I'm just trying to figure out why. Like, what's the reasoning behind these cages? They look like bird cages, the first off, but you can fit a person in them. They actually kind of look like the cages that go around their head, but like a bigger size, right? It's just very interesting. That light like flashed at me. I thought that someone was giving me some SOS down there or something. So I was like, wait, what? Looked at it. These puppets are very actually interesting, I think, because remember before this that we saw some like more like a mechanism than a person that we were fighting. So this is kind of the same thing. These are like mannequins or puppets, I guess you would say, that float around and they attack you and they give you 0 souls. So they are not fun. Just like those, oh, actually those guys I think didn't give you souls, did they?
Ah, cause, or some say cosm. Do you hear our prayers? We shall not abandon the dream. No one can catch us. No one can stop us now.
Alright, that guy's a creeper. He's crazy. He's a madman, obviously. Too much insight, apparently, has gotten to him. This is the Micolash, host of Nightmare. That guy is Micolash. He's your main boss. This boss fight is a very strange boss fight, actually, for a Souls game, I think, or a Bloodborne, or whatever you want to call it. We'll call them Souls games. Because it's not really tough. It's more of like a puzzle than anything else. And all you gotta do is just follow him around and try to, at the end, he jumps into a room where he locks himself in. You just gotta kind of figure a way into that room. And as you watch, you'll see how I get in there. And once you start fighting him, he really has only hand-to-hand combat. He doesn't have any weapons. So, to me, it tells me, I think the reason behind that is it's to show that he's more of a scholar and not a hunter. He's not like a hunter like you fought before, a beast or anything like that. He's a scholar, and obviously he has Ebriet's tentacles, because that's what that move is. And he does some other abilities that that we're gonna have to either watch out for and hope our player can get. That'd be cool. And then check those out. But most of his fight is like this. He'll try to use his magic on you if you stay far away. If you get close, he uses less of it, but he'll still try to attack you with it. In the second part of the fight, he uses an arcane blast, like an AoE attack, which is actually pretty tough to dodge. I think he's dead right there, but he's not. That's pretty tough to dodge, and if you don't get close to him, you'll take full damage from it, and the full damage is a lot. But if you get up like right next to him, and instead of trying to dodge it, just get up right next to him, take the hit, you get hit maybe for like a quarter, maybe a little less than like a quarter of your health. It's not a lot of damage. So that's what I did. And the second time I fought him, the first time I was just getting pelted by it. I was like, how the hell are you supposed to dodge this stupid attack? Other than that, try to get behind him to do some backstabs. He's super backstabbable. Other than that, like I said, it's just a super duper easy fight. I mean, it shouldn't be too tough. If you're having trouble, maybe you need to level up a bit, or level your weapon up a bit at least. Other than that, I don't think you're gonna have too much trouble against this guy. He's pretty simple. Like I said, it's more of a puzzle than it is anything else. Just watch out for the puppets and these things. Now, like I said, I think these things are interesting because not so much that they're interesting. Well, they are kind of interesting because they're really only enemies in the game where not that you don't get souls or blood echoes, but that aren't real. Like they're actual, like, well, they look to be very like mechanical. Like they're not real people. And you are in a nightmare, so it makes sense that they could be that thing. However, I think it's to more show that, symbolize that, you know, they're puppets, and that we're nothing more than puppets to the Great Ones. That we are nothing. Like Micolash is really nothing more than a puppet. Like he's not anything special, or he's not a Great One or anything like that. That we humans are just nothing but puppets to these guys, and that they use us for whatever, to gain whatever they want to gain. I think the way the story goes, sometimes I think the humans may have realized this. They may not have realized this, but I think they did, and I think that's why you see a lot. I think that's why you see hunters and stuff like that, because we are trying to fight against that. However, there are people that still want to join them or be part of them, to learn of the greater knowledge, you know, of the eldritch truth. So it's just it's weird. Maybe even the hunters and stuff like that, we're just all puppets to them, and I think that's really what it's trying to show. Even if we think we're doing something against them, we're still a puppet to another one, or another Great One. we see some items here. Actually, I get 2 items in this episode that have some stuff to talk about, and when we get to them, we'll talk about it. One of them, though, talks about the Great Ones of the Dream. It kind of specifies a certain group of Great Ones. So are there different ones for different things? Or are there just, like, are there Great Ones for the dreams? Are there Great Ones, like, you know, for spaghetti noodles? I don't know. Like, are there different great ones for different, you know, things out there? And this item kind of points it out now. Or is it that all Great Ones exist in dreams? But I think at the same time, what these people think are dreams are just different planes of existence, right? Like, the nightmare of Mensis is really not necessarily a nightmare, but part of a plane for one of the Great Ones. Like, maybe the nightmare and the nightmare frontier and any of the nightmares involved in the game are part of one Great One's, like, plane of existence, right? And then you see that kind of throughout the whole thing. Like, and then what's interesting is when you go fight Rom, who's quote unquote a kin for a Great One, or can be considered a Great One. Remember that he was empty, or empty-minded, or mindless. And when you fight him in his dream, which seems to be like in the lake, it's empty. There's nothing there. Remember, it's just blank. Like, there's absolutely nothing in that area. So that or I should say, her power was empty or gone, and for some reason or another, and it just created an empty area. And that empty area was blocking the rituals. Or it's still hard to say that if it was. It has to be, because I think the messages say that thing in the water, the spider, is the one blocking all the rituals, and that's what's stopping. That's what's shielding. I'm really trying to make that connection between all the lake ruins you get and Rom, right? Because Rom was found in the lake. Could they be separate? Of course they could be. Like, yeah, there's nothing that makes them connect other than you found Rom in the lake. But I'm really thinking that all those ruins were saying all these things, and it was because Rom was inside the lake was the reason why. If that's true, then why did Carol think that it was the water that was doing it and didn't realize that it was Rom in the water doing it? You know what I'm saying? Carol was around. He was a Byrgenwerth scholar. Necessarily doesn't mean he knew Willem, but Willem, there is one of the ruins, or one of the things says that Willem would have been proud of him for not using blood to get the powers of the Great Ones, right? That he would have been, like, you know, I guess another word would be proud that he didn't do it. But so that means Carol and Willem and all them, they're all Byrgenwerth scholars. Willem was the provost, and Carol was just a rune smith. But we know that Rom more than likely was a Byrgenwerth scholar too. So that tells me Byrgenwerth existed either for quite a long time, with things going on, and Willem even passed before things ended, or it was just really, the area didn't look that big, right? If you really look at this attack right here, so you see how it was really close to him, it didn't do a lot of damage. Wait till, like, back away from him and see how much damage it does. I can't believe I died, but like right here, watch. Try to dodge it. Look how much more damage it did, like half, a little bit more. So just watch out for that. Like, get right next to him when he does the attack. You'll see the next time I fight him what happens. If you stay really close, he tries to use his fists, which don't do any damage, but then he does that attack, which pushes you back, and then he decides that he wants to do his arcane attack. He will. You know, nothing tough here. But yeah, so Byrgenwerth just seems to be either a very, very long existing school, even where there were maybe multiple provosts, or it was a very small school and just people didn't know each other. But to me, when you go to Byrgenwerth, you notice that it's not a very big area. That doesn't mean that it could have been bigger in one point, but from the way the surroundings look, it doesn't look like it was. Like, it just doesn't. However, you never know if the lake, like, if part of it fell off into the lake or something like that. I don't remember if it showed anything like that, like there was anything crumbling off into the lake, because that would be interesting, but I don't think it did. So to me, for what it looks like, is like Byrgenwerth, that's what it looked like. It's not a very big place. So what Byrgenwerth, like, where would all these scholars go to study? I mean, that area wasn't that big. The lecture building, remember, I don't think belonged in Byrgenwerth. I think it belonged more to the school of Mensis than anything, because it seemed like students were taking notes on the stuff Byrgenwerth was doing. So that kind of knocks that out of the contention. So that means if Carol, the lady that turned into Rom, and Willem and Lawrence, if they all existed, they had to either that place existed for a very, very long time, and they were all separated throughout the ages, except for Lawrence and Willem, right? Or they just all knew each other, and it just sounded like the way the thing was described, it sounded like they weren't. It could be that, you know, if maybe Willem didn't know Carol was working on those ruins or whatnot, or they didn't really know what he was doing because he was so tied up on trying to get eyeballs on his brain. Like, there's ways to explain it, but to me, I think Byrgenwerth existed for a long time. This is, I think, the best way to look at it. Like, it didn't exist for, like, Willem's lifespan. Like, it existed beyond that. Or who knows whatever happened to Willem, because we're not 100% sure. He keeps talking about how he wanted eyeballs on his brain, but it never explains that he actually got it or not. Did he ever actually achieve that? Or did he just vanish before he could? What happened to him? And like, you know, did he ever become a great one? Did he ever actually make it to another plane of thought? Was he part of what happened with the hunter's dream? You know, those kind of things kind of pop up, and they're questions that I want to answer, but it's hard to answer those questions without anything to back it up, other than, you know, I can just speculate. I can speculate out of my ass, and I can make educated guesses at what happened based on the information around. But, you know, there's nothing that really states, you know, this is what happened to Will, that I know of, anyways. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it talks about the pretensions of the students, but I think that was more about him. I think he was afraid to use the whole blood, and he was really wanting to do good by it, because he really wanted to bring the human race up to the level of the Great Ones. I think that was his whole purpose. However, I think while he was trying to do that, he started to be more and more pretentious of himself. Or the whole thing with Rom happened, and that was the student that became pretentious and wanted all the knowledge to herself. And then that's how Rom was created, and then it blocked out the rituals, and then Willem was never able to finish what he wanted to do, and then he passed away. Carol was forced to make ruins because he wasn't able to do anything else, because, again, Rom existed. So maybe that's kind of what happened, you know? That kind of, in a way, makes sense in some ways. But again, that would mean that they all kind of knew each other. Unless, you know, Willem died and then Carol existed and Carol kind of took over, and, you know, you could say it like that too. But it looks like Rom really put a jinx in all their plans. But then, as you're fighting Micolash, you hear him saying many things. And the first cutscene we look at, he says, Cos, or some say Cosm. He has a really crazy voice. and then he's just saying, that brings up someone, right? Someone named Cos or Cosm. Cosm is a prefix usually for cosmos. So it's weird. Who's he calling Cos or Cosm? You know, is he calling us that? Doesn't sound like it. I don't think that's necessarily true. You could take it that way. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But, you know, he's just saying, Cos, or Susne Cosm, do you hear our prayers? So it sounds like he's really talking to someone else. Remember, he wasn't facing us at the very beginning of the cutscene. He was kind of facing away. And he says, do you hear our prayers? And then he goes, no, we shall not abandon the dream. No one can catch us. No one can stop us now. Did he, in the cutscene, did he stop and turn around to look at us at that point? When he said, do you hear our prayers? Did he stop and turn around and look at us? And then was he talking to us at that point? Or was he still talking to Cos and Cosm, saying, hey, we're not going to stop. We're not going to abandon this dream. You're not going to stop us. But what makes me think that's not true is because of what happens when you start fighting him, and when he talks while you're fighting him. However, he says, we shall not, no one can catch us, no one can stop us now. That's such a, I put on my notes, the generic bad guy line. So who's us, though? I think is the big question out of that, right? Who is us? Is it the church? Is it the school of Menses? Is it this nightmare, right? And the great one in this nightmare. Who's us? So we get the Menses Cage after you beat him. And we're going to take a quick look at that description because there's some good stuff there. The school of Mensis controls the unseen village. The hexagonal iron cage suggests there were strange ways. The cage is a device that restrains the will of the self, allowing one to see the profane world for what it is. It also serves as an antenna that facilitates contact with the great ones of the dream. But to an observer, the iron cage appears to be precisely what delivered them to their harrowing nightmare. Pretty cool. You can actually equip it. I put it on my guy right here in a minute. I spin around in circles because I think it's hilarious. It's a weird... I like how they gave it to you as a helmet. So this is the thing you saw as you were going through the Unseen Village on everyone's head. And at first you thought, you know, maybe it was a torture thing. Maybe it still is in some weird way. It is, well, in a way it is torturous to wear that. But you're torturing yourself. So it was maybe more of a thing that they wore out of kind of like, this is what they wanted to do, or this is how they wanted to live. It was more of maybe I don't know, like, I don't want to say, I guess you can say a sacrifice, but a sacrifice for the greater good. So they kind of went nuts in this village. Or they could have been taking the villagers that they were finding everywhere and making them do it. Remember, the Unseen Village is in a very, very nice place. They had a lot of people who kidnapped people. They, in fact, had a whole hunter group that's all they did. Was they weren't really, it even says in the description that they weren't really hunters. They were more or less likely just kidnappers, and that's what they did. And the armor even states that, you know, the ropes on the armor were meant to kidnap, really tie up victims, and not necessarily for defense. So that village was kidnapping people. They kidnapped you even in the game and send you there. When they kidnapped them, what was it for? Was it for the Menses Cages? Because I don't think so. To me, I don't think that's what it was. I think the Menses Cages was done by the people of the school of Menses, the people who believed in it. I think more or less likely the people were for something the Great One wanted. Now, you remember the way most of the monsters in that area looked, or the way the one reborn looked? I think that's what they were more for, sacrificing flesh and blood for the Great One to create its reborn, its infant. That's what that was, and that's what that nightmare exists because of that harrowing stuff, right? It's scary. It's scary, you know. It's just it was just a very bad place, right? They kind of did very, very, very bad things, and ultimately leading into their well, once I get through the place, ultimately leading to their demise. But as of right now, it seemed like maybe when whatever happened with Rom or whatever kind of locked them away and kept them away from everything. But it seemed like the guys from the guys with the bags were still able to get out, because he was able to get out and grab me in the middle of the game. So it doesn't seem like they were completely locked out. So it doesn't seem like Rom really locked them out, you know. It just seems like Rom unlocked the door to that area, basically because once she was dead, the rituals of the nightmare were actually being seen for what they were, right? Because that's kind of what Rom did. That was her power, I guess, over everything. It's still like very strange, and the little intricacies of that is weird. But see, this is where I notice this area down there, because I start hearing singing, and I remember the singing from the Nightmare Frontier. So if you go left right here, and then I notice those guys, because like, whoa, those were bosses not too long ago. So remember what I told you earlier in previous episodes about the Keepers and the Shadows of Yharnam, right? So if I'm right about what I said before, then those guys are guarding a Great One, or they're blocking access to a Great One. This right here is the secret, is in that hole in the wall. But we're gonna go there. That's what this episode is me traveling through that area. So yeah, Micolash, very creepy dude, madman, and he says some stuff when you first see him. And like I said, I think he's more talking to you halfway through. Like, he's first talking about Cos and Cosm. He says, "Do you hear our prayers?" And then I think he sees you, and then he says, "We're not going to abandon our dream. No one's going to catch us. No one can stop us," because he saw you. Now, when you fight him, the reason why I think that's because when you fight him, he has a different set of dialogue, but he starts the same way as he did when you first saw him before he noticed you were there. He says, same thing, Cos or Cosm, "Do you hear our prayers? As you once did for vacuous Rom, grant us eyes, plant eyes on our brains to cleanse our beastly idiocy. The great lake of mud, hidden now from sight. The cosmos, of course. Let us sit about and speak feverishly, chatting into the wee hours of new ideas of the higher plane." His whole thing goes crazy near the end. It's like he's getting crazier and crazier as he says it, and then he howls at the end like a weirdo. It's like the goofiest howl like I've ever heard in my life. It's so funny, but it'd be creepy. Like, it's creepy because it's done so weirdly, I guess you could say. Why is he howling though, right? He's supposed to not be turning into a beast, right? With all his insight, is he just acting like an idiot, or what's going on? So we truly know that he's gone crazy, I think, while you're fighting him. Now, does that mean what he says is completely crazy too, or is there some truth we can take from it? And I think, of course, there's some truth you can take from it, because if you couldn't, then then this would be pointless, and I wouldn't have anything to talk about. So again, he says, Cosm, do you hear our prayer as you once did for vacuous Rom? Grant his eyes, grant his eyes. So we kind of know about this already, right? Except the fact that who the hell is Cos? Or whoever is Cos or Cosm? Who's that, right? What does that have to do with me? Could that be Pale Blood? Could that be the Moon Essence? Could they all be the same thing, just all with different names, right? Cosm could be its actual name. Pale Blood could be the name given by the people, and then Moon Presence is just what the game wants to give it, so it doesn't give away everything of its plot. So you don't know. Then maybe none of it has to do with anything, right? Maybe Pale Blood's a completely different thing, Cosm's a completely different thing, and the Moon Essence is a completely different thing. I don't think that's true. I think the Moon Presence is, if it's anything, it's one of those two, but it could be all three. I think it's something along the lines of that, right? So the Moon Presence could be Cosm, and that's it. Or the Moon Presence could be Pale Blood, and that's it. Or they're all three the same. Right there, if you're not careful about getting through that hole in the wall, you will die. You have to wait till the very last, what it feels like the very last second, to roll out of there or jump out of there. Otherwise, you hit like the window frame and it knocks you out off. So just be careful of that area. But yeah, so who's Cos or Cosm? Who's that? Right, that's our first question. I think it could be the Moon Essence. It could be the Cosmos. You could be talking directly to the Cosmos. Maybe there's a Great One that controls all of it. Right? There's an old Great One that controls everything. Maybe that's who he's talking to. We're not 100% sure yet. There's nothing that we've never met Cos or Cosm. He says, do you hear our prayers? Obviously, he's just asking. I guess they're praying for eyes on their brains. That's what they're praying for. Maybe they read what Byrgenwerth was doing, and they thought the experimentation stuff was a little nuts, and that they were like, well, instead of doing that, let's just kidnap people and put cages around our heads. We can reach it that way. Yay. I don't know. Here's the thing that I don't get is, where do they come up with these crazy ass ideas to get to reach higher planes or understand better knowledge? Like, where are they getting this craziness from? Is it from the Great Ones? Are the Great Ones telling them to do it and saying, hey buddy, this is how you get to my world? Just put this cage around your head and don't ever eat and you'll starve to death, but then don't worry, you'll come to my world. Like, what is causing them to think these things? Like, what? I'm trying to think if there was an item that explained how Master Willem believed that eyeballs would get him to a higher plane. Is it stuff that he saw in the labyrinth, right? Is it because of that stuff? Is that what happened with the school Menses and the choir? Did they go back in the labyrinth and they saw some other way, or they thought some other things? But whatever it is, they all believe that eyeballs are the key to seeing into the higher plane, seeing past a certain point. And then he says something very interesting, saying that you did this once for Rom, right? You did this once, granting the eyes for Rom. And then he kind of makes it seem like that was a good thing. But remember, Rom to us is, from the name of it, we think it's mindless or empty. So was this a cruel joke? Before we talk a little bit more, let's look at this eyeball brain. This is the thing that was hitting you from the beginning of the stage. It wasn't the ladies on top, it was this thing. If you notice, it's just a bigger version of them without a body anymore. It's just now just a brain with eyeballs on it, which is interesting because we've been talking about that this whole time. So there is an actual brain right here in front of us with an eyeball on it and with eyeballs on it, and it all it does is that frenzy crap, and it hits us now. Is this first of all, is this a great one? Is this an actual great one? Second of all, is this what the dream is coming from? Is this the source of the dream? To me, again, this thing looks completely useless, and it doesn't seem like it's worth a damn. Like, all it does is what the one thing it did before I entered here, which was hit us with frenzy to stop us from coming up. But I mean, does it do anything else? Is it also empty like Rom was? Because if it is, then that might mean it was transcended from a human. These ladies over here look like that too. Like they're not necessarily, they're very tall, but were they humans at once? Were they something else? Obviously, but they're obviously not. They were not born great ones. They're something that wanted eyeballs on them, and they got what they wanted. But is it truly getting them what they want? Right? Is this leading them to the things that they need, or the things that they thought they were going towards? So far, every time we've seen it, it doesn't seem like it was a very big success. Rom is one of them, right? Created a boss, something of a great one. But is it considered a great one because we considered it a great one, or is it an actual great one? Who says it's a great one, right? Do the great ones come down and go, oh yeah, you're a great one now, cool beans? Or is it because everyone else thought she was a great one and was like, oh my god, she did it, everybody, this is how it's done, and people think that's the way to go, and in reality, right? It's not working, because look at these ladies right here. I mean, they're wicked ass monsters, and they're badasses in that aspect, but are they truly great ones? Do they truly know? Look how bullshit this is. Are they truly all-knowing, or do they truly know what the Eldritch Truth is? What is the Eldritch Truth, right? What's this otherworldly knowledge that we're trying to get to see these other planes of existence and whatnot? I haven't seen one that was a human yet actually turn out to be something worth a damn. so that's just my thoughts so far, right? So are the girls, just like I said, are we just puppets, right? Are they just playing with us, just toying with us and our stupidity about how we want to be like them, and they're just like, huh, you guys are dumb. Let's just mess around with these guys and give them the idea that they could be, like us. But in reality, all you do is create these monsters that on the outside we're like, oh, they exist and they are all knowing, but in reality they're just monsters. They're nothing more than that. And all the great ones are doing is just using us, maybe to populate themselves, because they can't do it with one another, or what exactly, I don't know. That part is still kind of a mystery to everything. Here I get the choir bell. It's an actual spell. Special hunter tool of the choir, high-ranking members of the church, fashioned after a bell that projects an arcane sound across planes of existence. The sound of this smaller silver version of the bell does not cross planes, but grants vigor and healing to all cooperators. So it's a healing mechanism. Actually, I think it's the only one in the game. I don't know how much it does. Well, I forget how much it costs to use. I think it's like 20. Yeah, 20 arcane to use. Something interesting I guess I can try out on my other character. My other character almost has 20 arcane, so you could definitely try it out and see how much health it actually heals, how much bullets it uses to do it though, right? So you're basically exchanging health vials for bullets to do the same thing, heal yourself. Cool that it does it to everyone who's helping you out, or everyone around you, so that's pretty neat. You walk down here and then you gather all this, there's a lot of knowledge here if I remember right, or Great One Wisdom, blood gems, more wisdom. There's a lot of this stuff going on. As you can tell, they all have those spikes that the eyeball was doing to you earlier, except these seem to stay. The ones on you didn't, but I think that's more of a gameplay thing. And then I look down here. This is where it fell. That item is actually very important. We'll get in here in a minute, but it is, I think, the only one in the game, let me rephrase that. It's the only one in the story part of the game that lets you level up an item or a weapon to level 10. It's a blood chunk, I think is what it's called, or blood rock is what it's called. So it's the only one in the storyline that lets you do, I think, unless there's some secret one I don't know about. Now the chalice dungeons, you can find a bunch. Well, you can't find a bunch, but you can find some down there, and especially in the later ones. So just know that that isn't your only option for that. That if you do the chalice dungeons and whatnot, you are able to farm more of them. They still are super rare, so it's not like you're gonna get one every so often. However, yeah, that's where you can find the other ones. So Micolash, this weirdo, I keep getting away from him, but he's just crazy. He's a crazy guy. But back to the eyes, the like I kind of went off a tangent about how, you know, how I haven't seen anyone with eyes on their brain yet be actually functionally useful. Every time we've seen one, it's like the game makes fun of them and is like, these guys aren't real. These guys are mindless, or they're not exactly, they're kin, right? Quote unquote kin, but they're not great ones. And you haven't really met a great one yet, other than did we meet? Oh, well, I guess, was the one reborn considered great? I have to look at the achievement to see if it was actually considered one, but that too could be considered, you know, something man-made. So it seems like anything man-made is like close to it, but not necessarily. So yeah, back to kind of what Micolash was talking about. He starts talking about this other world, this grand lake of mud, right, hidden now from sight. He says the cosmos, of course. Is he talking about the Grand Lake of Mud? Is the cosmos? Is the Grand Lake of Mud somewhere we haven't been? Is it one or the other? It's just weird that he says it like that. To me, it might make more sense that it is the cosmos, because he's saying that it's a Grand Lake of Mud. In other words, we don't really know what's going on. Remember the thing with lakes and the augur of the eldritch truth and stuff like that. And he says it's hidden from us. We don't know it yet. But he says, let's talk about it. In the wee hours of the morning, let's talk about it. And we will do new ideas of the higher plane. Like, we'll understand it a little bit more. We'll get to know it. So that's kind of what his little spiel is on everything. But the biggest thing is to take from it, or there's a thing called cause or cosm, and it gave eyes to Vacuous Rom before, and that they want eyes, obviously. And that's kind of really what I'm getting from his whole thing. Just that's kind of what he wants to talk about. And this whole side area over here is an idea of what is either creating the nightmare or is part of the nightmare. Maybe it's another creation of the Great One from the humans. Is this big eyeball thing that they drop? Just very strange object, and get a little bit more. This gold blood gem I saw at the bottom says, when clerics began transforming into unspeakable beasts, the church needed something to retaliate with. So the church the whole time, you get this from the pendant, the church the whole time are the ones that knew that about the beasthood, that they need to retaliate to these things. And I think maybe this kind of shows a little bit of a connection between they realized that the beasts were existing, or maybe the beasts exist, and that with insight, not necessarily killing the beasts was necessarily the easiest way. You know, that's kind of the way to deal with the ones that are out there now. But remember, insight is the direct inversion of beast. So with more insight, you don't turn into a beast as much. However, you turn mad. So it's kind of like choose your poison, really. And maybe the church found out that, you know, that's the way to deal with that, is to get more insight. So to delve into the eldritch truth more will keep us from turning into beasts, because we didn't fear the old blood like we were supposed to, and now we'll have to dig into this new world. But that's all I got to say today, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'll be coming back out with another exo, and we'll get through this area, I promise. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.